Moss is my favorite plant. There's something so satisfying about its appearance and ability to grow nearly everywhere. On a tree, in the sidewalk, underwater, and even indoors. When I realized it's been over a year since I've done that, I got to work creating something special. A unique display full of hidden features that showcases many species of moss side by side in 9 distinct modular environments. There are around 12,000 known moss species worldwide, with 400 native to my state. I estimate that there are at least 30 of those living in my yard who have been hidden under a blanket of snow for months. With warmer days on the horizon, they're finally emerging from their slumber. Most will remain where they are, while some will migrate into these terrariums, which are one of the best ways to grow them indoors. A terrarium built around moss is known as a mossarium. While I've made them many times, I knew that if I were going to do it again, it would have to be unlike anything I've done before. When I came up with this idea, for some reason my mind immediately went to a modular setup. I felt that these acrylic display cases would fit that vision best. I was about to build an entire shelf around them and did my best to account for every last measurement. The individual containers, 3 of them together since that's how they'll sit on the shelf, and the thickness of the board. I only had a single slab of hickory to build with, so there was no room for error. Based on what you've seen me build on this channel, you may assume that I'm a planner, but I'm really not. Now when I'm working with specific animals, there's really no way around that, but typically I just kind of get to work and figure things out as I go. All that's to say that I could not have planned for the fact that the lights I'd embed in the underside of the shelves were the exact width of 3 containers side by side. Despite not naturally being a planner, it's a skill I'm trying to learn. I know it will streamline and improve my craft. Plus, I only had the one board, so this was probably as good of a time as ever to start. I collected my thoughts into a visual reference on this blueprint to account for everything better. It helped more than I expected, and is probably something I could get used to. While figuring things out as I go usually works out well enough, I wanted the acrylic boxes to fit as seamlessly as possible. After all, their dimensions dictated nearly every decision I made since they'll hold the key to this design's success, the moss. Having a reference helped me better account for all the numbers when it came time to cut the board. I've been creating nature designs my entire life, but it wasn't until around 14 that I put a concerted effort toward the craft. I estimate that I've spent somewhere in the range of 35,000 hours doing it. I'll leave my calculations on screen if you're curious to see how I came up with that. These really are just pointless vanity metrics at the end of the day though. The only reason I bring them up is to better illustrate the point I'm about to make. I've made nature designs consistently for so long that I feel confident in my abilities. However, I don't feel the same about carpentry. My trajectory with it is similar to nature design with 2 key differences. First, I've spent hardly any time doing it comparatively, maybe a few thousand hours at best. Second, and probably most importantly, I've played it pretty safe. By that I mean I haven't pushed myself to try new things often. As for actual safety, well, there's no amount of money I'd accept to use a table saw how I used to. Ignorance is bliss until it's not. Anyway, a glance through my catalog of nature designs show me that while there's some correlation between time and skill, the most considerable improvements occurred when I tried something new, even if I didn't get it entirely right the first time. Eliminating old habits, especially bad ones, is essential for growth. That's a long-winded way to say that I finally started doing that in the shop. And for this project, I thought it was the perfect opportunity to experiment with some rabbit and dado joints to assemble the boards. Like many of those nature designs, some learning and improvement did occur, but I may not have got it entirely right the first time. It's not our mistakes that define us, but how we move past them, right? Regardless, the piece fit together as intended. As you can see, there were inconsistencies in the front. Long story short, I originally planned to make the dado as deep as it was here until I realized the containers wouldn't fit. This made the front look wonky, but I'm hoping I could do it better next time. I'll probably also just build or buy a router table to make the whole thing more straightforward. That said, I did have a plan to fix it and would have it looking good in the end. Phase 1 of that was to sand the boards up to 320 grit before assembly. I also drilled for the lights, which would have been a little more difficult later in the process. The fact that it looked bad didn't change how satisfying the assembly was. It happened pretty easily and all the angles were perfect. While the glue-ups dried, I enacted phase 2 of the operation. Ripped down strips of wood on the table saw that I sent through the planer for consistency. I cut these down by hand to create a frame on the front. Unfortunately, the remaining length of the board was much lighter than the shelf, which you can see here. While it doesn't really match the rest, I think it's far better than the alternative. Plus, it ended up being a blessing in disguise, which you'll see shortly. The containers fit well, but I knew in advance that there would be no way to access them. That's why I decided to include these magnetic push catches. With these, I could simply press a container to gain access. The cool thing about the trim is that without it, these wouldn't have aligned well in the back. Because of that, I likely would have had to make one anyway to avoid an overhang. I always love seeing how the wood grain reacts to a stain or poly. A few coats revealed the subtle, natural beauty of this one's characteristics. Working in small spaces like this can be a challenge without the right tools. A few years ago, I randomly bought this flexible drill attachment to do work on my truck. I didn't expect it to be as helpful as it is with stuff like these catches. I got them and the lights installed with ease. I also did some cord management before firing it up for the first time. It looked incredible. Well, almost. I'd do something about these later. In the meantime, I had to account for the backs. I decided to use PVC board because of how easy it is to work with. These alone helped make the piece appear more complete. However, I had to cut out slots for the catches. I also made strips for the sides, which I attached to the rest with cyanoacrylate and a catalyst. These were an improvement to the open space, but I wanted it to appear more premium than a sheet of plastic. The answer was simple: adhesive velvet fabric. It went a long way to elevate the appearance of the entire design. All I had to do then was install these, complete the cord management, and put bumpers on the bottom. The catches came with these metal clips. I added some mounting strips before sticking them to the magnets. I later added some ventilation holes on the front as well. All things considered, I think it turned out pretty well. The way the containers click out of place is also incredibly satisfying. These were finally ready to become terrariums, which meant I could collect the moss. There are patches all over, so it didn't take long to make my selections. There were even some incredible finds at my fountain, and you know I had to get that driveway moss from before. I got a few handfuls of other items I found inspiring for good measure. It's been a few days since a good rain, so these mosses were thirsty. I don't know about you, but I find it fascinating how resilient they are. One moment they appear dry and lifeless, but within seconds of being watered, they spring back to life. In the meantime, I mixed up cocoa fiber, sphagnum moss, aqua soil, charcoal, and sand. This substrate blend will remain moist to maintain humidity without becoming compact. I use this in each of the terrariums along with a thin layer of sand. This foundational layer will create a water reservoir separate from the other components. While there are many ways to make a false bottom, this is an excellent option for simple mossariums. As I design these, I like to take the perspective of environmental storytelling. What I mean is that these mosses live in places where things have occurred. I use their stories as inspiration to better represent nature indoors. For example, moss is usually mingled with other plants, but occasionally there's a location where only it grows. Sometimes it will be a single species, and other times many are growing together. I personally enjoy the combination of multiple textures and wanted to capture that within this scene. I also utilized the confines of the container to my benefit by placing taller species in the background and shorter ones in the foreground, almost giving the illusion that these are clusters of trees in a forest, if that makes sense. I knew this wood was perfect for a backdrop, even though it's too large to fit. Nothing a saw couldn't fix. It can be helpful to add large elements like this before the false bottom and substrate. Considering the scale of items is really beneficial with these designs as well. While the wood in the back looks exactly like what it is, it's also reminiscent of a rocky cliff. A finer textured moss would tie into that better than the larger ones, helping it appear vast. I think it's neat how tiny things like this can be used to give the illusion of something grand. Sometimes it's not about creating a convoluted design, but instead showcasing the natural beauty of what's right in front of you. This was one of those times. I wanted to showcase the unique rotten knot while also telling the story of a fallen tree that's being overtaken by moss. Moss also loves growing on rocks. Outcroppings covered in this stuff are very prevalent in my area because of all the sedimentary sandstone. It wicks and retains water, making it a perfect surface for moss to grow on. Leaves and debris tend to collect in the crevices around it, creating a scene like this. Another distinct environment occurs under conifers. I collected these items from under a hemlock, and I'm just kind of putting them in this box. Delicate branches have fallen out of the tree where they've been overtaken by lichen and moss. All the while, the tree has shed some needles and cones, creating something harmonious in the process. As we've established, rocks and moss go hand in hand. However, tree roots often do as well. Imagine that the dirt under a tree is eroded to reveal a beautiful rock in the grasp of its roots. That's precisely what I wanted to mimic here. Going back to basics can also be rewarding. A lovely flat landscape covered by a single species of moss and various seed pods and branches. It's very simple but appealing. Plus, it will get better as it ages. I wanted to do something similar to this one while focusing on the rocks. They have incredible texture that I did not want to hide. I also find the juxtaposition between orange and green to be pretty appealing. While I used seed pods and others, I didn't highlight them like I did here. Truth be told, I pulled this one from my botanical collection and not the yard. We don't really have stuff like this in PA. Regardless, having it surrounded by moss is something I could totally picture seeing. Nine unique mossariums in one, and they're modular. That means I can rearrange them as I see fit to create the most cohesive and compelling design possible, or simply to change things up during maintenance. I'm curious to know though, which of the 9 is your favorite design? Doing something new or that you're less familiar with can be daunting, especially when issues arise. What always helps me gain perspective during those times is that if you're not making mistakes, you're probably not learning. And if there's one thing I can say with certainty, it doesn't matter how long you've done something, there's always more to learn. Bringing moss indoors is a lot of fun, and it's not very difficult. If you like these types of videos, then I know you'll enjoy the time I built an end table specifically to house moss, or a mini moss wall that waters itself. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, Serpa Squad, take care and peace.